So today, I'm going to walk you through the actions that I've had to take through the years to get to 100 units personally, but also the actions that we're still using to this day. Now, for my top producers and my team leaders in the room, some of these you're going to say, oh, this is kind of basic, Jeff. Well, watch. Anything that appears basic to you is probably advanced to some of your agents. And so what I would recommend is for any of you in the room leading teams, take these thoughts, take these concepts, and turn around and teach them to your team. Create your own stories so that way you can relate to them. So the first thing I want to cover is flip the switch at the door. So I'm going to walk you through, these are all concepts and strategies that I've implemented into my business in order to take notes from a conference and take action on them. And when I think about this conversation, this is a conversation I actually had with my very first real estate coach. His name is James O'Taylor. He's still around. He's actually a coach for Lpt today. Anyways, my very first real estate coach taught me this concept because I was on a call with him. I said, James, I don't understand. My production is going up, but my conversion is going down. Can you help me? And we took a look at a lot of different things. I said, he said, Jeff, how many listings do you have right now? I said, I have 17 active listings. He said, how many pendings do you have right now? I said, I have 9 pending. And he said, let me ask you, have you ever had that many active listings and pendings at the same time? I said, no, it's the most I've ever had at one time. He said, I bet I know what's happening. I said, okay, please tell me. He said, when you go on appointments, you're carrying baggage with you and you don't even realize it. And it's showing up with the sellers and buyers that you're meeting with. I said, okay, what's the solution? He said, well, I want you to try this. Next time you get out of your car to walk up to a seller's front door, I want you to just say to yourself, it's showtime, it's showtime, it's showtime. So by the way, I tried that, but what happens is, as you know, you're walking up to the seller's front door, and you might make a quick glance at your phone. Oh no, I had a feeling that deal was going to fall apart. Whatever, I'll figure that one out later. And then you go meet with the seller. So I changed it. Instead of doing it showtime, when I walk up to the seller's front door, as soon as I go to ring the doorbell, I say to myself, of course not out loud, because the ring doorbell's going to hear you today. I say to myself, they probably wouldn't open the door if they heard what I was about to say. I say to myself, flip the switch, it's showtime. Flip the switch, it's showtime. That's just a reminder to leave everything outside. So when I'm sitting there in front of the prospect, I'm 100% present. It's amazing what happens when you take this approach. I had so much success with this approach, we brought it into our office. So if you follow me on social media, by the way, it's at Realtor Jeff Glover. If you follow me on any of my social media channels, as I'm walking in the front door of my office, you'll see every time 3 little words, flip the switch. And it's just a reminder to leave everything outside. Agents leave all the problems with your kids. You got problems with your deals, leave it all outside. So does everyone else. We're here to learn and grow and have a good time together. By the way, I'm not the only one that thinks this is a great concept. You may have heard of the famous poet, Drake. Wrote a song about this. Some of you guys will get that one later. All right. Flip the switch at the door. What do you need to do? What reminder do you have to have so that every time you're walking into a seller's door, a buyer's door, or your office, your home office, you leave everything outside? Next. What we do determines our success, not the market. This is something that I learned, and I want you to write down underneath this. Average agents justify. Top producers take market share. Average agents justify. Top producers take market share. This isn't like just some hocus pocus, like, Jeff, of course, you're going to give us a strong mindset stuff. Every speaker's supposed to do that. Just for the record, I'm not up here as a speaker. I'm a realtor, just like you. I just have to be sharing what I'm doing. So no, this isn't some mindset hocus pocus, thing that we have to do to trick our mind. This is the truth. We have data to back it up. If you go back all the way to 2005, in 2005 we had about 1.5, 1.6 million realtors. The last time the market was high, before it came down and came back up. We had about 1.6 million realtors doing just over 5 million sales, and then at the bottom of the market in 2010, sales dropped from over 5 million to about 4.2 million. We lost about 20% of sales in the industry, but guess what? We lost almost 50% of the real estate in the industry. So what does that mean? That actually means there was more to go around. So when I think of what we do determines our success, here's my recommendation to you. Chase what everyone's running away from. I can't tell you how many times through the years I've watched agents in our market see that listings are down, so I'm going to go chase buyers. Now, we're not taking as many listings as we used to, so let's go buy buyer leads. We're not doing as many listings as we used to, so let's go hold more open houses. No way. Do you know what I see when I see listings are down? I see we're going to go get more. That's why a lot of people probably today come to our events, because we're still averaging 75 to 100 listings a month with 30 full-time salespeople. 5 years ago, we were averaging 75 to 100 listings a month with the same 30 full-time salespeople. Why is that? Well, because we made a decision when everyone was chasing everything else, we're going to go all in on sellers. Don't ever forget, what you do determines your success. When I think about what you've learned this week, I love the concept of raising your average sales price. That's a perfect example of this. The 20% increase instead of trying to double it in 1 year. Are you comparing? Here's a good measuring stick. We just had a sales meeting. We had a grand opening of a location a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't remember what day it is now. But anyways, we had a grand opening location. Before that, we had a sales meeting where we shared our average sales price for the first time in a long time. We were outproducing the market on the average sales price. This is something I haven't really cared about as a producer. I cared about how our volume was compared to the market year over year. I cared about how our units were compared to the market. I always looked at that, but I didn't really care what the average sales price was. And so now when I think about, by the way, our average, compared to the market, our average sales price was up 21% compared to the market. And then I think about, well, what did we do? Well, we introduced luxury. We made it a focus in every single agent's one of their business plans. We made a conscious effort to determine, all you have to do is, here, watch, this is what we did a year ago. Write down what your average sales price is today, and beneath that, write down what you want it to be. And then we have to figure out filling in the gap. And if you're following the playbooks model that have been provided to you by LPT, you know that number's 20%. Increase it by 20%. Don't try to double it year over year. I get this question all the time. Jeff, yeah, but I want to be a luxury agent. Like, I want to be known as luxury. Like, I want to flip the switch and I want to be a luxury agent, like right now. Okay, I got news for you. Don't get mad. But before you're a luxury agent, you kind of need to be a luxury citizen, right? Let's actually behave as a luxury person first before we stand up and say we're going to be a luxury agent. That's why I like your concept of just slowly increase your average sales price. It's going to happen naturally. Don't ever forget this one, no matter what's happening in the market. I love this, especially when you guys are preparing the boomsday preppers. And this is perfect for you guys right now. You're prepping, you're training, you're gaining market share, so when things flips, boom, you're right up here. And I know most of you are already up there already. Okay, now watch. I know I'm going to lose about 20% of my room with this one. Cold calling. Come on, Jeff. They saved you for last? Like, I thought you were going to give us some good stuff. Like, this is basic stuff, my friend. Do you know my producers in this room? You know you need this message the most. Because here's what ends up happening. You make a little money, you're on top of the world, you start sprinkling things around. Let's add this in, let's try this. Oh, only a 90-day commitment? Yeah, sign me up for that. Oh, leverage. Let's just leverage everything out. Let's get everything off the plate. You forgot what got you to where you are today. Never forget that the person in your market, I don't care how it happens, all right? We teach at Glover 7 ways to make contacts today. Never forget that the person in your market that figures out how to talk to the most people is going to win at the highest level, period. I don't care how they do it. I don't care if it's door knocking, cold calling through AI, Facebook, social media. I don't care how they get there. The person that talks to the most people when they get home is going to win the game in every market, every time, no matter what year it is, period. End of story. So I think about, you take these playbooks and everything that you've learned over the last 2.5 days and revolve. You should be writing this question down right now. Write this question down for me if you would, please. How can I, just write this question down. How can I increase my daily contacts by a minimum of 5 to 7 contacts per day? How can I increase my daily contacts by a minimum of 5 to 7 contacts per day? By the way, those of you leading teams, every single one of your team members, go back and figure that out. And for those of you that are saying, or your team members may be saying, well, I get this, we had this, so we do this prospecting live thing twice a year in Detroit, where agents fly in from all North America. We rent out a really cool, sexy space. We put headsets on. We're all standing up in prospecting stations. I mean, it is like a call center on steroids. It's an awesome experience. And I had agents come up to me and say, Jeff, I'm struggling to get the contacts today that I used to. And I said, I don't understand. We're making 8 to 10 contacts per day. Well, Jeff, I know you're doing this clever youth thing now. When you used to prospect every single day, which I still get independent prospect with my people all the time. I love showing them up, trust me. And I love it for Instagram too, of course. So, Jeff, when you used to prospect, you didn't have to deal with all these spam blockers and all the stuff that we have on the phone today. To which I respond with, okay, when I used to prospect every single day, Glover U wasn't a thing, I'd call them on their landline and try to catch them at home. So what's the difference, right? So watch this. So I set out to prove a point over 2 days. Okay, 75 producers all over North America, all different brands. I think we had a few Lpt Realty agents there. I said, here's what I'm going to prove to you. I'm going to prove to you over these 2 days that I'm going to make, on average, 10 contacts per hour. Now that means some hours is going to be less than 10, and some are going to be over. The very first hour, there's people that came around and could not believe it. The very first hour from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m., I made 16 contacts with a single line, fully legal dial. 16 contacts the first hour. By the way, over 2 days, I averaged 11 contacts per hour. So anyone who tries to tell me, it's not the same, not as many people are answering. Get on a call, get on a phone right next to me. I'll show you how to get 10 contacts per hour. I do not buy into any of that when I hear that from people in the industry. Next. Oh, in the morning, you'll win the day. Oh, in the morning, you'll win the day. And by the way, I know my top producers, Jeff, come on, when are we going to get some of the good stuff? This is the basics. Okay, watch. This is not, by the way, everyone join the hashtag 5 a.m. club, all right? Those people are weird anyway, so don't do that. No, I'm kidding. What this says is, watch, I don't care what time you wake up, whether it's 5, 6, 7, I don't care what time it is. What this says is in the morning I find business, and in the afternoon I service it, period. I can't believe today there's so many top producers that still have this yo-yo business. Good month, bad month, good month, bad month, good month, bad month. Top producer of the month, 1 month, nowhere to be found the next month. Why is that? Because when we get busy, we tend to let our foot off the gas and we wake up and we just start servicing. So for those of you that are leading teams, why don't you have something in your environment, in your culture that says, we do not service business in the morning, period. We have in our offices, well, thank you for one person's going to go implement that. Thank you for that. We have above our copier in our offices a sign in every location that says there is no prospect, there is no customer, and there is no problem that cannot wait until 12 noon. Think about that. There is no prospect, there is no customer, and there is no problem that cannot wait until 12 noon. The problem right now, in your mind, you're thinking, I couldn't pull that off. My customers expect me to respond right away. Because you've trained them that you're going to respond within a certain amount of time. Instead, why don't you go on appointments and let them know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I just want to give you a heads up, you're actually not going to be ever able to reach me in the morning. Because in the morning, I'm finding business for my listings, I'm finding buyers for my sellers, and I'm finding sellers for my buyers. All of my customer service calls, putting deals together, all of that happens in the afternoon. So you'll always hear from me by the afternoon, I promise you that, and make that commitment to you. And an agent who answers their phone all hours of the day, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is probably an agent that's not busy prospecting, finding these buyers for their listings. So could you just implement a simple, the morning you find business, the afternoon you service it. Take these playbooks back and write out a new morning routine. And your morning routine needs to revolve around finding business, period. Making contacts, period. The afternoon is for the servicing. By the way, there's today, I think it was day 1, you guys covered AI. There's so many different hacks and things that can keep you focused. So I asked them, I said, so at the end of this prospecting live thing, I asked, so what did you guys observe? One guy raised his hand and said, Jeff, I noticed you didn't have your cell phone in your hand. Yeah, why do I need my cell phone if I'm working on a dialer? Well, the point is I think a lot of us are probably playing around on Instagram and Facebook when we're prospecting. It's a distraction. Sure, yeah, in fact, I not only don't have my phone in my hand, I have it upside down. Because I don't want to see the incoming calls. Because the moment I take an incoming service call that I could have handled at 11:30 or 12 o'clock, now my contacts per hour go down. So I asked, what else did you guys notice? They said, Jeff, you had no other tabs open on your screen except for your dial. That's right. You didn't have email open, you didn't have your calendar open, nothing. No. I had a daily contact log sheet that I operate from, and on the bottom of it, I had the days and times that I was available. Because the second you open your CRM, the second you open your calendar, you see something that distracts you, and you hit pause and you go work on it. Eliminate all the distractions, Only morning in the day, you'll get the context you need. Next, if I didn't go on an appointment today, seriously, what did I accomplish? This is something that I learned during my first year of coaching. And today, I have coaching clients that all sell over 100 homes a year. People ask, well, Jeff, I want to coach with you personally. Well, you have to have a goal to sell over 100 homes a year. And you have to show me that you've already been selling 50 to 75 over the last few, because you don't go from 25 to 100 in 1 year. So get to 50 or 75, and then you can coach with me. So this one stands out to me because I remember I was having a conversation with James, my first coach. I said, James, this is going to be, we had been coaching for a year. This is the end of 07. I think you guys will find this story interesting. And it'll help connect the dots to a lot of what we're covering. And there's a strategy in here that if you follow without question, every single person in this room and your team members will increase their production. I said, James, this is going to be the year. 2008 will be the first year I sell over 100 houses. He said, Jeff, you just sold 43. What makes you think you can go from 43 to 100 1 year? I don't care. This is going to be the year. I got all fired up. I went to a conference. You know how that goes. So he said, Jeff, I want you to take out a clean sheet of paper. So I did. He said, I want you to write the number 100 at the top. Okay? So I wrote down 100 closings, right? He said, nope. 100 listings sold. I said, wait a minute, why am I writing down 100 listings sold when I just said I want to sell 100 homes? I can work with both buyers and sellers, can't I? He said, you can, but Jeff, you sold 43 homes this year, right? Again, this conversation was in December of 07. I said, yeah. He said, well, he said 38 of them were sellers and only 5 of them were buyers. So either you don't like buyers or buyers don't like you. By the way, both are still true to this day. So we're only going to focus on what you're good at. Okay, so I wrote down 100 listings sold. He said, now underneath that, I want you to write down the number 150. I said, okay, what does this number represent? He said, this number represents the number of listings you need to take in order to have 100 listings sell. Now, this was 07 going into 08, so you guys kind of remember what was happening during those years. Whether you're in the industry or not, you know what happened in 7, 8, 9, and 10. He said, Jeff, only 2/3 of your listings are selling in the whole market. So you're going to need to take 150 to get 100 to sell. Okay, so I wrote down 150 listings taken. He said, now I want you to write down the number 250. I said, 250? What does this number represent? He said, this number represents the number of appointments you need to go on to get 150 sellers to sign with you. What? 250 appointments gone on? Are you kidding me? I'm that bad? Like, seriously? My conversion sucks based on those numbers. He said, well, Jeff, he said, you sold 38 listings this year, right? I said, yeah. He said, you took 55 to get those 38 to sell. So that's how I'm figuring out that ratio. And do you know how many appointments you went on? Because I was bad at tracking my numbers. I just put them in a spreadsheet and he did his thing. He said, Jeff, you went on 84 appointments to get 55 sellers to sign with you, which means that if you want to sell, if you want to take 150 listings, you're going to have to go on 250 appointments. Okay, at this point, I'm like thinking of changing up the goal, changing the subject, so I write down 250 listings or appointments gone on. I said, anything else, James? He said, there's one more thing. He said, I want you to write down the number 250 one more time. Okay, what's this? I kind of with an attitude, like, what's this represent? He said, Jeff, that's how many days available to work in a calendar year. He said, because when you subtract Sundays, I refuse to work a Sunday. He said, you take some Saturdays off. He said, you got holidays, you got sick days, you got conferences. He said, Jeff, there's about 250 working days in a calendar year. He said, take a look at that piece of paper. What do you notice? And I'm staring at this piece of paper. He said, I have to go on an appointment every single day, don't I? He said, that's right. If you want to sell 100 homes in 2008, you're going to have to go on an appointment every single day on average. He said, you still want to do it? I said, absolutely. He said, not so fast. He said, Jeff, we only have a call once a week for 30 minutes. I said, okay. He said, so we're going to need to put a little penalty in place on the days that we don't have a call. I said, what's that? He said, well, here's what we're going to do. I know how much you love door knocking. I despise door knocking. Anyone besides me just can't stand door knocking? Oh, come on, guys, get your hands up. You know, here's the deal. For the back half of the room that you didn't raise your hand, we're going to do an afternoon session around the resort here. We're going to go door knocking, okay? So he said, Jeff, here's the deal. For every day you don't have an appointment to go on, you got until noon to set one. If you don't have it set by noon, you have to go door knock for an hour in the afternoon. By the way, a little warning for those that coach with me that want to sell over 100 homes, they get the same penalty. They can thank James for that. Fast forward to the end of 2008, 246 appointments gone on, 147 listings taken, and 102 sales. No team, no ad, just me doing this and doing this. And when I think about, well, you don't have to clap for that, but thank you. When I think about this was written on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper right above my light switch as a reminder, if I'm hitting that light switch off, I better be going and getting in front of somebody or I'm not going to hit my goals. And so I have people come up to me today, either at this event or other events, and say, Jeff, tell me, like, what was your mindset Like, what was going through your head during those years? How did you stay so focused on this 100 number? And my response to them is, honestly, I wasn't focused on the 100 number at all. Do you know what I focused on every single day? Do everything I can to avoid door knocking. That's it. Do everything I can to avoid door knocking. Which meant getting in earlier, making more calls, making more contacts, responding more aggressively. You've heard of this thing called power hour, like from 9 to 10 or 8 to 9. My power hour was from 11 to noon. Do everything I can to avoid door knocking. And when I think back to that year and every year after that, because I never dropped below 100 again until COVID. When I think back to that, that's it right there. If you can create this in your culture, with your team and your personal business, to where if we're not going on an appointment every single day, we're not really in the business that day, I promise you, your personal production and their production will go up. How can you create this in your culture? Think about that. Next. Oh, I love this one. The more rejection I get, the more money I make. So, when we look at this one, when I think about real estate agents today, especially with AI, especially with social media, a lot of agents today are doing everything they can to avoid rejection. And there are some tools that might make it easier for us to still generate leads with less rejection, no doubt. And I'm not suggesting you don't. Listen, if you have something that generates leads, do it. I don't care what it is. But here's what I know. The agents that are getting rejected the most are the ones that are getting paid at the highest level, period. So I had this written out on an 8.5, or on a little sticky note, not 8.5, but a little sticky note right by my phone that said, the more rejection I get, the more money I make. Every time I pick this bad boy up, someone is going to be mad at me. Someone's going to tell me to go fly a kite. But this is not why I'm sharing this one with you. What we don't realize, for all of us in this room, no matter what your production is, you have an opportunity to not only get better personally, but help somebody else get better with this one. Because I know all the cliches, every no brings us closer to a yes and all that, and it does, and it's true. But here's what I know about this one. Every time you get a no, every time you get rejected, you get better for the next one. Well, how do you do that? What do you mean you get better? Well, not only just the practice and repetition, but you write it down. I'll never forget, I think it was, just over a year ago, people were like, Jeff, how did you have, we were like I think the very first, if not the first, real estate training and coaching company to have the NAR updated script book out. Basically, how to talk to buyers and sellers with the changes. We were like one of the first, if not the first, to have it out. And people were like, Jeff, how did you make that happen so fast? I said, well, I go on appointments, and I remember I was on an appointment, and a seller asked me about it. I hadn't even heard of it. I wasn't even paying attention to all the stories and everything. I hadn't even heard of it. So I went back and researched and found out exactly what was about to happen. Okay, we better be prepared for this. It's coming. Every time you get rejected, you get better for the next one. So long as the lesson in this is, do you document it? And then once you document it, what do you do about it? When you get the rejection, do you actually write? If you were to ask my staff to pull Jeff's last 10 listing appointments, I'm telling you at the bottom of probably every single one, on the bottom of my lead sheet where I have the details, where I take notes on the presentation, at the bottom of every single one, you'd see something that I didn't like about what I said or what I presented. And I make a note of it, and I circle it, and I star it. And I come back to the office, and I look at it, and I think about how I can do better for the next time, or what can I create to get better for it. The nice thing is, by the way, we update our materials every year. You guys are in a company that provide LPT, listing power tools. You have some of the greatest material, and you understand, consumers today, they're making a decision on the listing side. Okay, first of all, largely based on how you make them feel, which is why sales skills are still important. So anyone who wants to say they don't need sales skills, you're going to lose to someone who believes sales skills are important. Because at the end of the day, they're still making a decision based on how you make them feel. And how do you make someone feel a certain way? Based on what you say. And then when you're there, and they're flipping through your materials, you know your materials give them an impression of your ability to market. And if you can market yourself, you can market their home. So if you're still going on appointments with a folder and loose leaf paper, I'm telling you, they're judging you. So take advantage of the tools that you have in front of you because they're high quality, and sellers want high quality materials. High quality materials tells them that you know how to market. You're handling their most valuable asset. So take advantage of it. Next, last couple, and then we're going to have a great conversation. When you generate, you don't have to tolerate. Think about it for a minute. When you generate, you don't have to tolerate. So many times today, We hear people saying, well, especially right now, well, I got this listing, Jeff. I need your help getting it reduced. Then I look at it, and I talk to the agent a little bit more, and I say, why are you still hanging on to this listing? Well, it's a good price point, or it's in a neighborhood that I really want to sell more. You understand that if you showed up every single morning and found business, you don't have to tolerate the knuckleheads. You don't have to put up with the people that aren't listening to your advice on what you have to say. But do you know why you do? Because you know you don't have the discipline to show up every single day and find new business. If you had that discipline, then you wouldn't have to hang on to that listing. You would actually have the ability, and hopefully many of you do, and I'm going to give you a script that I want you to write down right now. Because I want you to get used to saying this when you have listings that aren't taking your advice. Because there's a lot of power in this, what I'm about to share with you, and it's going to put it back on you to go find more business if they take you up on it. Write this down, please. Mr. and or Mrs. Seller, do I have your permission? Do I have your permission to be upfront and honest with you about something? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do I have your permission to be upfront and honest with you about something? Do I have your permission to be upfront and honest with you about something? Yeah, of course, Jeff, that's why we hired you. Continue. Then you need to know. Then you need to know that I would be doing you an absolute disservice. Then you need to know that I would be doing you an absolute disservice if I kept your home on the market any longer at this price. Then you need to know that I'm doing you an absolute disservice if I kept your home on the market any longer at this price. I would be doing you an absolute disservice if I kept your home on the market any longer at this price. By the way, that's on a price reduction call. If you're at the listing table, I do the same thing at the listing table. I just switch up a few of the words. I say, Mr. Seller, do I have permission to be up front and honest? Yep, that's what we want. Jeff, we want someone to tell the truth. Good. Then I need to let you know, I would be doing you an absolute disservice if I took your listing at this price. And do you know what 9 times out of 10 the response is? 9 times out of 10 the response is, well, I appreciate you shooting me straight. What price do you think we should do? And they put it back on you. And now you can make a recommendation that they're bought into versus making a recommendation that they're thinking you're just trying to get a quick sale. Because that's what ends up happening. You understand when you're talking price with the seller or price reduction, you have to essentially kind of mentally wrap your arms around them and have this we're in this together mentality. When you generate, you don't have to tolerate. When you're willing to lose listings because you don't really have anything anyways, because it's not selling and they're not going to take your advice, then and only then, you don't have to tolerate. Next, the moment the commission check becomes more important than the customer, you've lost. And here's what I know. You can take everything that you've learned over the last 2.5 days, and if you don't get right with this one, none of it matters. Because I know what it's like for some of us in this room. Hopefully none of us are struggling, but I remember struggling early on in my career. And in my pocket, I always carried around an the back of a business card, back in the day when you could write on it. And on it would have all my expenses. And I would carry that around with me everywhere I went. And I mean, when I got home and pulled my phone out of my pocket and my keys out of my pocket, I looked at it every single day, twice a day. I looked at it once to go put it in my pocket, and I looked at it at the end of the day when I go to set it down on my counter. At the end of the day when you set your keys and phone and all that time. So I was very aware of what I needed to do to make money. I was very aware of the number that I had to hit. But you know what? My clients would never know it. Because they can sense when you want it more for you than you want it for them. And at the end of the day, your company can give you all the playbooks. I can give you all the strategies that I'm sharing with you that have impacted me, that I'm still using today in my business. But at the end of the day, if we don't get right with this one, it doesn't matter. So know that the moment the commission check becomes more important than the customer, you've lost means you'll get that one deal. You'll get that one commission check, but you're not getting a referral from them, and you're probably going to get a bad review, and it's going to cost you more later. So for my leaders and teams in here, we have to help our agents understand when they're starting out not to have this thing called commission breath. Right? We got to remind them sometimes they got to brush their teeth, hopefully every single day in the morning, maybe twice a day. As team leads, we forget we were in this position at one point in time, and we did a good job of not showing it, otherwise you wouldn't be in this room. But your agents need that instruction, because when they're struggling, it comes out on their appointments and affects their conversion. So, in a moment, we're going to shift gears and we're going to go into a discussion about a little what we covered and some Q&A strategies. But one of the things that I want you to do before we finish is, you've been taking notes somewhere. You've been taking them in your workbook, you've been taking them in your laptop, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back to the first day of the conference. Okay, so back to, I think it was Wednesday was your first day, and look at the very first handful of notes that you took. And from Wednesday to today, I want you to skim through those notes. I want you to look at the first handful of notes that you took, and here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you an assignment. Okay, this is the difference between being a knower and being a doer. Because all of you are going to walk out of here as knowers, but there's going to be a handful of you that walk out of here as doers. And here's the difference between the two. The knowers get pumped up, they get excited, they feel good, they like being around their friends. You know, they come to these things because, you know, they like, you know, feeling good and being around people that like that. The doers understand that part as well, but the doers are excited to get back to work. They're not extending their stay by an extra day. They're not taking the next 3 or 4 days off to digest their notes. They're getting back to work on Monday. So how do they do that? Well, here's what you do. I'm going to give you a recommendation. When you look at your notes, these guys look around. Did you extend your stay? I'm sorry. He did. Well, it's the weekend. You can extend through Sunday, but come on, let's get back at it Monday. So watch this. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go through your notes, and I want you to put a star next to no more than 3 things that you're going to take action on this coming week. Go through your notes right now. We're going to do this together. I want you to put a star next to 3 things you're going to take action on this week. Whether you get back Monday, Tuesday, or like this guy, maybe next Friday, I'm not sure. Whenever it is you get back, he threw you under the bus. You're going to have to talk to him. Put a star, no more than 3 things that you're going to take action on. Now, this doesn't mean that like you're going to have it implemented by Friday. By the way, I understand some of these things are going to take time, but no matter what, 3 things that you're going to take action on starting next week. That's part 1. There's 3 parts to this, by the way. That's part 1. As you're doing that, so I'm going to give you the second part. As you're doing that, I want you to circle anything that you need to take action on between now and the end of the year. All right, so the first one you're starring, no more than 3. See, here's the mistake a lot of you make. You go back and you try to implement 11 things. No way, it won't happen. Can't do it, not possible. 3 things next week. Put a star. 3 things between now and the end of the year. So before January 1, you've started the execution, or maybe you have executed on these 3 other things. Circle those. And the last part, by the way, I do this after every conference, after every event. Otherwise, yeah, it felt good, it feels good, you get motivated, you get pumped up, but what's the point? You go back to just doing the same things you've done over and over and over again. So the last part of this is I want you to underline 3 things that you'd like to take action on in 2026. So you're going to end up with 9. 3, 3, 3. Star, next week, 3. Circle, between now and the end of the year, 3. And I want you to underline 3 that you're going to take action on in 2026. So that way when you go home, on your plane or on your drive, you can start thinking about what's the first step. And then now you'll have 9 things out of 100, 250, however many things you have written down. You have 9 things that you're going to start taking action on, and you're not just a knower, you're a doer. So on the count of 3, I want to hear from you. I want to know, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you a knower or a doer? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Are you a knower or a doer? Doer. So about half of you. Back half of the room. Are you a knower or a doer? Doer. Okay. By the way, did you guys get value out of the last 40 minutes? Yes. Thank you. So, before we jump to a conversation, I invite Robert up here. We've got a great conversation that we're going to have. I want to share with you, and they gave me permission to do this, so thank you for that. You know, one thing I love about your leadership team is they understand, Jeff, we want our people in your rooms. We see the value of them being in your rooms. So if you've never been to one of our events before, I want to share with you our main event that we have coming up this January in Phoenix, Arizona. Check it out.